I will move for Chair Gunther, if you want to stay right there. House File 504 provides a retroactive sales tax exemption for certain nonprofit retail development. And before Chair Gunther gets going, we have some folks who wish to testify on behalf of. Is there anyone who wish to testify with concerns on House File 504? Does the department wish to make comments on 504? Okay. So Chair Gunther, to your bill, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. This is a bill about a town of 780 people about.
Right.
That bucks the trend and wanted a grocery store and a hardware store and a liquor store and a gas station in their town. So they started to build a town center. The community raised over $800,000, and then they borrowed $2 million, and they built this in spite of the fact that the Star and Tribune said it's almost impossible to get a town with under 2,500 people to have somebody take over their existing grocery store. So this is something, a community that had foresight, and I go over there and I buy groceries there, and I know about prices because I was a grocer for years, and it is a wonderful place to go shop. And they did this because the town wanted to stay in existence. They didn't want to shrink. They wanted to grow. They had foresight, and according to Star Tribune, this isn't done very often, and I don't think I can remember one other time that it's happened. So what they simply want to do is, when they were building this facility, this town center, 501c3, they were paying sales tax and everything they bought to build it, and then it came time to ask for a remittance of that sales tax. They were too late. I got it to the chairman too late. It was past time. He said, bring it next year, Gunther. So this is where we're at. We're trying to get the town center in Trimont, Minnesota, that's trying to make a small community alive again. You don't have to travel 50 miles to get a head of lettuce anymore when you're around Trimont, because you got one right there. Other than that, they have to travel round trip 50 miles to get a head of lettuce. So this is why we're here to getting this, and I have Randy Gruppe, the head of this project from Trimont, and he certainly lend a lot to the process.
Okay, please state your name and who you represent for the record, please, sir.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm Randy Gruppe, and I was the finance chair in raising $800,000 for the Town Center Incorporated. So members of the committee, Chairman, I can talk briefly about that, and I'll be glad to answer any of your questions. About 6 years ago, two business people were at the post office, and they were looking around, and they just said, we need to bring some essential services back to the city of Trimont. And they came up with this idea of a private partnership along with a public partnership, and they developed the town center motto. We secured a USDA loan for $2 million. They named me chairman of the committee. You have a flyer that is going around that gives us a little bit of information on what we're doing. And the USDA loan, as I said, was $2 million. We raised the $800,000 in 2 years. And on November 18th of 2015, we opened the grocery store and the fuel site. In February, we opened the hardware store and the liquor store. And we're up and running to date. Our general contractor at that time, I don't know if it was communication or what it was, but we had sales tax that was paid on equipment and those types of services that totaled just under $69,000, and we're asking for relief for that at this time. We have secured a super value grocery store, a municipal liquor store, an Ace Hardware, and a fuel site from Dunkin' Oil. Dunkin' Oil and the Super Value grocery store are in partnership, so once in a while when you see a Super Value in a smaller town with population of under 2,500, they are in that as a partnership. It's Dunkin' Oil from LaGrange, Indiana, and it's Super Value out of the Twin Cities. Very successful to date. We employ about 20 to 24 people depending on the season. It's brought great economic growth. It's revitalized our town. And people in western Martin County, eastern Jackson County, and southern Watonwan County. We did 2 feasibility studies that reached out about 12 and a half to 15 miles, and we're happy to say that we've reached further than that. We're going about an average of 15, 16 miles on when we take the circumferences where we're at, the radius of where we're at, excuse me, of members that come in and shop with us. And we're just very pleased as to how it's going. We've been contacted by others to be used as a model or a template for rural areas. We were considered a grocery desert, and Mr. Gunther was right in that it is 50 miles round trip, or it was. It's not anymore, and that's our story. We have a website you can go on and talk about or read about our whole story. It's kind of exciting, and it's a great place to visit and be. I'm the retired superintendent of schools of Martin County West Schools, raised my family there, and when they asked me to do the fundraising, I have decided that's the way I'm going to give back. So 2 weeks ago, I was named chairman of the Town Center Board because the fundraising is probably 95% complete. We continue to get, as a 501c3, continue to get people, but the $800,000 was raised. It was $600,000 to break ground, another $200,000 to get started with USDA loan, and that's been complete. But we're probably approaching $850,000 raised locally, businesses, private entities. My last name is Groupie. A company named Groupie Company in California saw us on the website, sent us $500. Said, if your last name is the same as mine, it's a pretty unique name that must be worth $500, and they sent us a check. So, if any of you are interested, I have a form, so we can fill that out too. But that's our story, and we appreciate your time here today, and I'll answer any questions that you have.
Well, thanks for being here. And so you're one of the groupies. Are there any roadies in town?
Wendell.
Wendell roadie? Yeah. Roadies and groupies. Kind of like hanging around this place.
Yes.
Okay. So wasn't it the Trimont Orioles?
It was.
And now
Wow.
it's the Martin County West
Mavericks.
But who came in with Trimont to make Martin County West?
Welcome in Sherburne. And Sherburne is a little town, Donnell, to the southwest. Sherburne and Donnell went together back in 1970 when the last state championship in boys basketball, when all the classes were together.
Yeah.
It was Sherburne.
Sherburne.
Champion.
Yes, and Martin County West was there in 98 and 2004.
Awesome.
Thank you.
That's been a while though, 2004. Got to work on that.
Okay, we will.
Okay. Okay, so Trimont, okay, so I think we know what the bill does here, and there is no one else want to testify on behalf of or with concerns. The department doesn't wish to testify this time. Any questions for members? Vice Chair McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question to Mr. Groupie. Because it's a 501c3, the whole development, is that then not, are you not subject to property tax then?
We do pay
Groupie.
Mr. Chair and Vice Chair, we do pay property taxes. We have abatement from the county and from the city on about half of them, but our plan is to pay. We could have checked a box that we did not have to. As I understand it, I was not a member of our original association, and we would not have had to, but we wanted to because the community at our meetings and that had asked that we would contribute, and so we are. And we just received our tax statement the other day. We'll be paying $45,000 this year towards local property taxes.
Vice Chair McDonald.
Yeah, that's, thank you, Mr. Chair. No, that's a good,
But we aren't completely off of that tax roll, no.
Sure.
We are on the tax roll.
it just shows when a group of residents
Vice Chair
come,
McDonald.
thank you, Mr. Chair, sorry. Just shows to go when a group of residents come together for the greater good of the community to provide something that's very necessary, and they were willing to spend taxpayer dollars on such an event that now going forward, it brings great income to the school and to the county and to the city. So for that reason, it seems like a worthy cause to support this bill, Representative Gunter. We've got to be careful for the precedent that we set forth, but I don't think there's probably many cities that are able to pull together like yours to create such a town center. And if they can, then more power to the people of Minnesota.
Vice Chair, that would be exactly
Groupie?
right. Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, that is exactly right. The people that have called to ask if we could use you for a model or if you would be willing to come and speak as, and use your template, exactly right. We did about, with the $800,000 raised, with about 800 people in town. It obviously went wider than that, but that's where they have run into a little bit of concern. If they have 1,000 people, I said you might have to raise $1 million locally. and that's where they've had a little hesitancy. So we're working through that with some of those other cities that are interested, but the process and the results, they like them. We've had a lot of visitors. We've had buses that have stopped by and looked at and if you're ever on Highway 4 South, going through Trimont, we're half a mile south of town, on the east side of the road, stop in.
Vice Chair McDonald?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, the refund, who will that go to then?
That'll go to the general
Mr.
contractor.
Groupie?
You get the hang of it.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair. That'll go to the general contractor. He paid those dollars.
Vice Chair McDonald?
That is all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Representative Loeffler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm just trying to understand sort of the nonprofit structure here. And is it the nonprofit structure is the landlord and owns the buildings and then leases out spaces to a for-profit Super Value and a for-profit hardware store? Is that kind of how it works?
Mr.
I'm just trying to understand how the businesses and the nonprofit work together.
Mr. Groupie?
Mr. Chair and the members of the committee, that is accurate. And like the Ace Hardware, they pay a substantial fee for a rental. We have built a building that hopefully will be able to be expanded upon. We are looking right now at a telepharmacy. There's a telepharmacy in Adrian that we went and visited. And Adrian is between Fairmont and Jackson, and then over to Worthington. It's off of the Highway 90 there. And that's what we'd like to do is exact that, and that would be another rental bay. We call them bays, and then we would rent that out. The Super Value and the liquor store and the fuel site are under the 501c3, and they are under Town Center Incorporated themselves. As we add the others, which we added the Ace Hardware and that, they are rental bays. And we're looking for another rental bay to hopefully do a telepharmacy so that people don't have to go to these other communities to get their pharmacy type of things. So.
Representative Loeffler?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and with all the nonprofit developers that we have doing all kinds of different developments across the state, I think we have to kind of think about how narrowly we write this. This is written really narrowly to, I think, just apply to this. I'll also say that there are food deserts all throughout Minnesota, and I know that there's plans right now in North Minneapolis for a nonprofit to expand its mission to try and see if it can run a grocery store. I don't think it's going to be a rental like this model. And I also know there's a cooperative effort to have a natural foods co-op in addressing another area. So I think this may not be as rare as we might think, because sometimes that's the only way to address those kind of issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Loeffler. Any other questions for the witness? Representative Gunther, you want to wrap it up?
Members, I appreciate your vote. I think as the contractor is looking forward to getting his money, I think it would be a good gesture to pass this bill so we can get the money rolling.
Yeah, I will renew my motion that House File the 504 be laid over for possible inclusion in an awesome omnibus tax.